if you are parenting a teen that doesn't actually open up to you very much, sometimes you get into these seasons with your kids, like parenting teenagers in their sexuality is such a dichotomy because they need you more than ever, but they want you less than ever.
Golly.
So that's hard, right? Like, what in the world?
So
this
cool.
is a strange design, but I think that what Jason has talked about before is just the necessity of connection. So could you talk a little bit about, like, what do you do if your kid's not opening up, if they're lying to you, if you know there's stuff going on that they're not talking about? What's a good approach?
As a parent, that's such a scary place.
Totally.
And there's so much pain not feeling connected to your kids, but also so much fear in having your kids do stuff that you're just like, oh my gosh, it's going to ruin their life, or it's going to ruin somebody else's life. And so out of that fear, we have these conversations.
Yeah.
And it's so damaging.
Right.
Because instead of the child feeling cared for and partnered with and understood, all they hear is your fear and what they're doing wrong. And so I think you got to have the conversation, but it's how you set it up. It's, again, do it in the context of maybe a really cool setting after a day of connection, and then, hey, how are you? Ask some questions. Tell me what's going on in your life, and maybe tell them about you. Like, I was feeling some sadness the other day when I found out that what you had explained to me wasn't actually true. And I'm just wondering if you're okay. Like that kind of, psychologists say that how you start a conversation will decide how it ends with 80% accuracy.
Yeah.
So all I have to do is go, what do I want my son, my daughter to feel at the end of this conversation?
Right.
Cared for, understood, close. That's how I'm going to start the conversation.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so thankful for this time with you. You mean a lot to me. And I know teenage years can be so tough and challenging, and you don't have to do this alone.
Yeah.
The other day you got really angry. Are you okay? Tell me what's happening. Or your dad hasn't spent a lot of time, hasn't been here a lot.
Yeah.
When he was supposed to be here, are you okay? What's going on? Because we want to create a space where they can be heard and seen and understood. They're not lying because they want to lie.
Right.
They're not hiding because they want to hide. They're not acting out because they want to act out. They're doing all those things out of a greater need.
Right.
To feel known, seen, understood, connected to, believed in. And we ultimately don't want to major on their actions that they're doing. You're doing this bad thing, stop this bad thing. Well, they'll stop that bad thing when they get that need met. Right. And we can help be a source to meet those needs. And so I think parents and myself, like, don't major on the rules.
That's right.
Don't major on the behavior. Go after their heart. And if you're going to get to their heart, you have to understand them.
Yeah.
And if you're going to understand them, they have to want to communicate. And if they're going to want to communicate, they want to communicate in a safe, cool, fun setting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it takes some work and some intentionality. You may have to practice how you start that conversation.
Right.
In fact, I would encourage you to practice how you start that conversation. Try it out on your spouse. Try it on your friends. Try it out on yourself. If you don't like it, if it's not inspiring, don't do it.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's really good. As you're talking, I'm thinking about just how cool it is, like specifically parenting teenagers in their sexuality. It's amazing because they're at a stage of life where they can actually handle the truth about certain things, and they have language and understanding for things that your younger kids really don't have. And so, when our big kids became teenagers, I found it so amazing that I could actually share bits and pieces of my story that actually I became more relatable to them, because I think something that happens with our teenagers, especially if we don't necessarily have a culture of like real openness, or we really share life back and forth with each other, our connection is good. Our teenagers have this idea that we have all these expectations of them, and we don't understand how hard it is. We don't understand what it feels like. My parents don't get it. They're so uncool. And one of the really powerful things that I got to do with our teens was unpack parts of my story for them that they could relate to. And I think what that required was me feeling really confident that
Yeah.
my story, this is
It's
Jason's
true.
line, but my story is a weapon.
Yep.
My story is a place of victory. My story and my
Yep.
mistakes are not a weakness in my life. They are an area that I get to share from confidently, knowing that ultimately it helps my kids not fear their own stories or not be afraid of their own mistakes. And so I love that. Felt like a real strategy for me when, you know,
Yeah.
your kids don't really know how to connect or relate. And I got to just unpack like what it was like when I dated my first boyfriend and how toxic that relationship was. And
Yeah.
I get it, like feeling connected to somebody and wanting to be sexual with someone who, you know, it's not a great plan and it feels yucky, but I don't know what my heart is doing and I'm all tangled up. Like, I've been there. I know what that's like. I can talk to my kids about that. That's no problem. But I think as parents, we have to just know, you know, if we're not confident in our own sexual history and our own story of sexual development, it's going to be hard to approach the conversation with authenticity with our kids. And I think that's what our teenagers want more than anything
Yeah,
right
it's
now
true.
is truth and authenticity.
Yeah. A lot of parents feel fake.
Yeah, I know.
It's a bummer.
Let's work on that, guys.
Yeah. Which is what the course does.
Yeah.